Today, for the very first time, I'm listening to the brand new album Dropout Boogie by the Black Keys. Hello everybody, and welcome to another album review / reaction here on my channel. If this is the first video of mine you've seen, know that basically what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the Black Keys, then take the new album, Dropout Boogie, put it in my CD player, listen to it all the way through from front to back, talking over the music, giving you my thoughts in real time as I'm hearing it for the very first time. And then after that, I will be doing my sort of album review or giving you my overall thoughts on the album at the end. So with that in mind, if you look in the description of this video, you'll see timestamps for all the different parts of the video, including the individual songs from the album. So if you want to skip everything and go to the end, see what I think about the album overall, or if you have a favorite track from the album, you want to hear my reaction to that, feel free to skip wherever you want in the video. Also know that I'm going to do my best to try to include the audio from the album in this video. However, the Black Keys are one of the biggest bands that I will be doing a reaction to on my channel ever. They are an enormous band. They are huge, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to include the audio. Last year, I did a reaction to their album Delta Cream, which I have in this stack, and it was pretty disappointing to me, actually, at the end of the day. However, I realized that that was only because they weren't making that album for me. Delta Cream is much more old school Delta blues, and I think that it just wasn't an album that was made for me. However, even though I've heard none of Dropout Boogie yet, I'm thinking that this is actually the true spiritual successor to Let's Rock, which is one of my favorite Black Keys albums, one of my favorite albums of all time. And in their catalog of work that I own here, including some stuff that isn't Black Keys, but that was produced by Dan Orapat and some Dan Auerbach solo stuff and whatnot. This is just a whole stack of all my Black Keys sort of stuff that I have in my Black Keys section of my shelf. I really think that we're going to be getting a more poppy album, kind of the kind of thing I was looking for. Like I said, the successor to Let's Rock here with Dropout Boogie. So I'm going to try to be using the actual audio from the album in my video here, but if I'm not able to, I don't know exactly what you're going to be watching. I may have to try to do something new, like where I cut out some of the sections where I'm not talking, but the music is just playing, or I might leave the music out altogether, so you would have to play your own copy of the album along with me, which if that's the case, look in the description of the video, and I will include a link to play the album and listen along with me on Spotify. I might include a link to purchase the album on Amazon or the Black Keys website, whatever. The Black Keys are so massive, you should not have any trouble finding them online. So with that said, I don't want to talk very long at the beginning here. I just want to go ahead and get right into this. I was going to say one other thing was the shirt that I'm wearing. I had a shirt plan that I was going to wear, and who cares what shirt I'm wearing for the video? I know, I get it. But I had a different shirt on, and I thought, well, this shirt, you know, this album, and I did open it and look, and it's got kind of like a college-ruled sort of aesthetic here to the, like a notebook, not necessarily college rule, but a notebook aesthetic to the inside of the CD packaging, and it's called Dropout Boogie, and I just thought, you know what, why not? Now's a good time. I'll just wear my old high school band t-shirt that the polo shirt that we would wear when we would go out and do performances. And so you can see here it says Prague Panthers, the old Prague High School, PHS, in Prague, Nebraska is my old high school. Unfortunately, it is no longer a school. It has been closed down since 2015, I believe. But there just were too few kids. In my graduating class of 2005, back in the day, we only had 10 kids, and I believe most of the classes averaged between 13 and 17 kids. Mine was a small class with only 10, but we didn't have enough kids to keep it open, and the town and the surrounding communities voted to close it, which was a big bummer. I'm really sad that my alma mater is no more, is gone, but I have recorded some videos there. I recorded some of my top 12 albums of the decade video there, and I also recorded some other videos there as well in the music room and everything, the old music room. So I've done some cool things there. But anyway, none of that matters. I just wanted to point out why I'm wearing this particular shirt. I thought that it would be kind of fitting for the Black Keys. And so, like I said, I didn't really care for Delta Cream that much. I do think that it was produced really well, though, as have all of the Black Keys albums, and really anything that Dan or Pat have been involved in over the last decade or so, maybe actually a little bit more, because if you look all the way back to Brothers, which I have the deluxe 10-year anniversary here and the regular edition here, one of my favorite albums of all time, and one of the album that got me into the Black Keys and into Dan and Pat themselves, and just sort of that sort of bluesy rock sound, that along with the True Blood Season 1 soundtrack really got me into a new style of music. And since then I've learned to love all sorts of different music that sort of all stems from the Black Keys sort of sound. And so I'm really grateful to them for helping open a whole new genre of music up for me. But I've gone back. I've got some of their older albums in their catalogs. I've got, all sorts of different things here. I've got the Arcs album that Dan was part of. I've got if you like the Black Keys and you are unfamiliar with the Jesse Wilson album Phase, Pat Carney did the production on this, and it sounds very similar to Brothers sort of style production and fantastic drum production and drum performance with female singing. Very, very, very awesome. So I enjoy the sort of... Actually, I enjoy all the different aspects of the Black Keys. I like the sort of gritty, dirty stuff that they did at first with a much lower minimal production. I like the sort of mono-recorded drums that they've always had their whole career, whether the drums were pan stereo. I believe they were, for the most part, always recorded in mono. So I'm expecting that here. Hold on, my table is squeaking. I don't want it to do that. So I enjoy that aspect. I like Dan's sort of crazy guitar tones. I feel like some of the most famous Black Keys songs that were their big singles, if you isolated just the guitar track itself and listened to it, you'd be like, what the heck is that? It sounds like a fly buzzing or some weird, maybe not necessarily good sounding electric guitar tone, but in context with the rest of the music, it works just beautifully and perfectly. And so I'm a really big fan of their last maybe like 5 albums or so. And I really, really, really loved Let's Rock. Like I said, I think that overall, Let's Rock is their most consistent album to date, and I think that it has their best songs on it. Like I said, I really enjoy Brothers. I really enjoy El Camino, and I like several of the songs a lot from Turn Blue, but in my opinion, Let's Rock is sort of the most consistent, and it has the highest highs. I do think that it would be hard for me to say that I like Let's Rock more than Brothers, but they really go head to head for me in my head. But anyway, so those are sort of my general thoughts on the Black Keys. I don't have very much to say before we get into this. So contrary to all my other videos on my channel where I talk forever and a day about bands and whatnot, we're just going to get right into this. So I'm going to take the CD, put it in my CD player. I really enjoy the CD, by the way. I was looking at the design. This is another thing that gives me sort of high school vibes. It's got that sort of high school notebook style, and then a little apple maybe for the teacher. Oops, sorry. Hold on. My lights are a little further back. So looks great. I don't think we're going to get any really long songs on here or anything. There's only 10 songs. It would be great if we did get sort of like maybe something like a little, was it Little Black Submarine? Off of Turn Blue. I think it was Turn Blue. Or was that song off of El Camino? Hold on. Little Black Submarines off of El Camino. Almost like more of a classic rock song than a blues song. I really enjoyed that kind of a thing with maybe a little bit more of like a guitar solo, a little bit longer. I don't know if we're going to be getting anything like that. Let's Rock had all shorter sort of, just straight to the point songs without very, very many sort of like instrumental sections or anything like that. Every song was pretty straightforward. For the most part, they did the choruses 3 times, but several of the songs did only have the chorus twice, which for me, I'm a bit of a stickler for song structuring. I want a song to feel, I want to feel satisfied when the song is over. I don't want it to feel like I want a little bit more, you know? For example, Girl on Fire, which is the last song on Let's Rock, I think is one of the best guitar riffs I maybe have ever heard. It's so catchy and awesome. I like the chorus. It's big. I love the verses. I like everything about that song. And I'm even okay really with the fact that they didn't go to the chorus a third time. I don't think they went to the chorus a third time on that one. Now I'm second guessing myself. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is to just say that some of the things I'll be looking for while listening are sort of song structuring. I like to pay attention to that. I am a music production guy, so I like to listen to the music, how things were recorded, things like that. I probably won't be doing very much like lyrical breakdowns, for example, or anything like that. We'll see if anything catches my attention. I'll mention it, but for the most part, I think I'll probably just be focusing on the music. One other thing that I have to mention, I really despise it when a band fades a song out. I cannot stand it. I do not like it at all. I really hope that no song on this album fades out. And I really don't think it will, because they don't have a history of fading out a lot of their Black Keys songs. They have done it before, and Dan Auerbach faded out a lot of the songs on his last solo album, which I think was called Waiting for a Song. I really enjoy that album. I like the production. I like all sorts of things. Dwayne Eddy played guitar on it, which is great. Dwayne Eddy, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. But because the album had such a throwback feel to it, a lot of the songs did fade out, and I really don't like that. So I'm hoping we don't get that on Dropout Boogie very much. I will also say that I know that sort of Billy Gibbons is featured on one of the tracks. There's a couple other guest artists. There's a lady, I believe, that does backing vocals on one of the songs. There's a guy that plays aux percussion on all the songs. There's a guy that does backing vocals on almost all the songs. So there's all sorts of different things on here, so I'm excited to hear that. So it looks like it's going to be another album full of more instrumentation than just what Dan and Pat would play live. There's going to be there's going to be bass, I think, on probably every song, aux percussion, piano, things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. So before we get started, though, I have one more thing I want to do. Look right here on my table, if you would, and I'll be right back. Of course, I couldn't do this video without drinking something, and so today I have my Mountain Dew Thrashed Apple. This is my green apple flavored Mountain Dew. This is not the first time I've had one. I have had one before. I'm very excited for this. I think that it will pair with the Black Keys very well. So if you have one of these with you and you would like to drink one along with me, feel free. Cheers. And off we go. I'm very excited, as I know I've said multiple times now, but it is absolutely very true. It's not every year that we get a brand new Black Keys album, though we did get one last year, like I said. So I don't have any booklet to look at for the lyrics. There are no lyrics or anything like that, so I'm not going to really have any book. I will keep track of what the songs are called, though. Try to do that. I will say the packaging for the CD real quick. The packaging for the CD was pretty flimsy and cheap. Not necessarily cheap, I guess, or I don't know. I don't know. It struck me as being kind of cheap. So maybe it's some sort of like a recycled material, which is totally cool. Fine with that. But all right. Hitting play right now. Black Keys, Dropout Boogie. Looks like Wild Child is the first song. My battery light is blinking. If my battery runs out, I will... all right. Oh, we got some congos right in there with the kick and some guitar. Oh, yes. Yes! Okay. Okay, low guitar kind of there, but high guitar in the background a little. Love it. Whoa. Kind of funky guitar riff in there. That's cool. Whoa. Yes. I will say it does sound like the mix overall is lacking a little bit of that crispy high frequency that I like so much. But I always use the Black Keys as the perfect example for mixing an album with the specific intention of sounding a specific way. Oh, I love those loose tom sounds. Love it. Background vocals really nice. Sounds big. Sounds a little throwbacky, but there's also like a bit of grunginess to this as well, like a little dirtiness that wasn't there on Let's Rock. Everything on Let's Rock, even though there were a few heavier moments. Oh, guitar solo. Very simple guitar riff, very Black Keys. Love it. Love the guitar solo. I think I read online that this album they started recording this over the summer of 2021, which would have been last summer, which I believe would have been not too long after, around the time that they released Delta Cream. So Dan's guitar chops should be as good as they've ever been with all of the playing he was doing for that album. Though it's a different style. I love those higher pitched vocals. Very cool. I love it. Let's Rock started off with the kind of the heaviest song on the album as well, so we'll see if that's the case here. Okay. Whoa! Whoa! A massive kick. That Black Keys sound. Oh, a lot of distortion on Dan's vocals. I noticed there's more distortion being used on the first track as well. And I don't necessarily mean guitar distortion either. Intentional distortion, like tape distortion sounds. Oh, we got some more aux percussion than just the shaker that's going right now in the left channel. Whoa. Whoa. Interesting keyboards there. I'll say I think that the vocals might be a little bit too distorted here. And again, it is lacking some of that crispy high end, you know? And all of those things I just mentioned kind of are adding to the sort of more lo-fi sound that they have here, and it's definitely a specific sound that they were going for. Now that chorus really just kind of comes in and attacks there. It kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. That high-pitched keyboard part in the back is really interesting. It makes me think of Turn Blue a lot. I'm pretty sure Danger Mouse didn't have anything to do with this album. Which, of course, Danger Mouse, the guy that co-produced, I believe, Brothers, Turn Blue, and El Camino with the Black Keys. Interesting guitar here. That sort of lazy electric guitar that's kind of right in the middle. Yeah, it almost feels like a loop or something rather than a guitar part. The tremolo there on the vocals. Wonder if that's done after the fact or if it was sung that way. Very cool. It sounds like it was done while singing, so. Now my battery signal's just blinking constantly, so hopefully I don't have to stop, but if I do, you know. Oh, get a little bit of a part here. The song's already done the chorus the third time there, and they're just kind of noodling around now. I like that. Bit of a twangy guitar off to the right, and then they're going to fade it out. I'm disappointed in that, however, not as disappointed as I could be. The song was clearly over, and then they were noodling, and it faded out. So I don't like it when songs do that, but I understand in that case, definitely. Ooh. Ooh, that's a dirty guitar sound. There's a very interesting tone through all of this. It feels like it's lacking something. Like I keep saying that high end. But it still does sound really good. I think it has to go into the mastering and how the mastering was done. Would be my guess. Whoa. Dan's vocal louder here, much more crisp, right in the middle. Dry. Like a synth pad in the back or something just constantly going. And then that cue. Dan's using his falsetto voice here. Doesn't use that as often anymore. Almost half the vocals on Brothers are very high. And the keyboards are interesting. Just little... We have tambourine also as well, if I'm thinking about the percussion. Ride cymbal. Ooh. Now we have lead guitar in the middle, very twangy. And then we have a guitar wide right, guitar wide left as well. I definitely feel like this song would fit in nicely on Brothers with the falsetto and just the sort of drumming pattern. But it's mixed with the style of this album so far with the 3 songs we've heard. So, very interesting. I love that dirty, twangy guitar sound in the middle. Sounds like the guitar strings on that guitar haven't been changed for, 20 years. Ooh. That's an interesting sounding synth there. Kind of a psychedelic sounding synth. Just a straight note. It's like a buzz sound almost. Ooh. Oh, interesting way to end that there. That was cool. Definitely a lot of human feel to these songs, as you would expect with the Black Keys. Love it. Love it. Very, very jammy feeling. Yep. And then the sound of putting the sticks down. And some words there that I missed. Whoa! Is that a whistle to start this song off? This is track 4. This is Your Team Is Looking Good. So if we're going off a high school theme here, Your Team Is Looking Good, this could be about some sort of a sports team. Wow. It's amazing to me that they can consistently sound like the Black Keys, but from album to album have such different sounds. Like overall, the production, love it. Female backing vocals here, I think. Yeah. Sierra Farrell, backing vocals on track 4. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, beat everybody, but you won't beat us. Yes. Love that. That's a very Roger Miller thing to sing along with the guitar solo part you're doing. Very cool. Riding on the ride there. Oh. There's a lot of weight to this song. Yeah. This song really... The groove here is really nice. And it's simple. Her voice matches very well with Dan's. I love it. This song does feel almost a little ZZ Top-ish with that riff. Which, you know, I mean, ZZ Top's so iconic in the blues rock sphere. Of course, there's ZZ Top influence everywhere. But that very ZZ Top. Interesting. That song seemed a little short, but it was just kind of a cool groove. Very cool. All right, track 5, Good Love. Wow. Gosh, the kick and the snare just sounds so fantastic always. Just chef's kiss, top notch. So here I'm hearing some guitar, electric guitar off to the right a little. Well, there's some organ now. The guitars here feel very big, and they feel put in the space intentionally. I'm almost wondering if these lead guitars here are the lead... If the lead guitars were recorded in stereo and then panned so that they still had a wide image but just shifted slightly, rather than taking a mono signal and panning it or using delay to make something feel thicker. Okay, is this the song with Billy Gibbons? Billy Gibbons guitar, track 5. Oh, it sounded like he was doing some background vocals there, so maybe not. And I am a fan of ZZ Top, for the record. I like their much more modern stuff, I think, a lot more than the sort of more classic stuff. And I know I'm definitely the minority there, but I haven't heard their last album, I don't think. And I don't think I've heard his last few solo albums, because there was just some weird stuff going on with them. Oh, this is cool. God, the drums just always sound so fantastic. The guitar definitely sounds bigger. It sounds like it was recorded with multiple mics, and then the panning was such that they shifted the image over a little, but there's still signal from it over on the left side. Ooh. The bit of reverb that there is there seems like it's definitely not like a lot of high frequency reverb. It's a lot of mid to low frequency reverbs, and that's giving everything a bit of a feeling of a bigness, like a big space. But it's not, certainly not like nothing is drenched in reverb. It doesn't feel effect heavy. It just feels like there's a bit of like a monster. It just feels like a bit of hugeness in there. Done very well, very tastily. Tastily? It's very tasty. Guitar right in the middle. This is probably Billy Gibbons playing the guitar, I would assume. Now, a lot of the ZZ Top songs, I wonder if this song will be a little bit longer. A lot of the ZZ Top songs are a little bit longer because they noodle around on the instruments. Oh, all right. Well, they just ended that one. That's kind of cool. Interesting way to end the song. Just kind of stop it. Okay, this is How Long, track 6. Okay, after those last two songs, I feel like we should come down a little bit in feeling. Oh, that massive bass. I think it's a bass. Sounds like a bass. It's enormous. Wow. Wow, the subsonic frequencies here are crazy. That bass and then the kick drum are just booming. But it still sounds like it's being controlled. It's just intentionally all-encompassing. Very subtle playing. Very subtle playing. Wow. Wow. The background vocals, they're very nice. Gosh, wow. The low frequencies on this song, really cool. I was just checking to see how many tracks were on Let's Rock, and there's 12. But I also see the last track is called Fire Walk With Me, not Girl on Fire. But of course, both of those lines are lyrics in the song, and Girl on Fire is like the chorus, but Fire Walk With Me. Apologize. Ooh. Very subtle. Very subtle. Ooh. Those Congo drums, or bongos. Congos, I think, in this case. I'm not usually a big fan of congos and bongos. They're sort of more ethnic, sort of sounding percussive things, but this is very tasty and done very well. And sometimes those instruments make all the difference. Aux percussion is so... Oh no. They're fading it out. How long? Not long enough, because you're fading it out and you're not actually ending the song. Very big to me. That's the worst song on the album. So track 6 is a forget about it song. So subtle they forgot to finish the song. Okay, this is Burn the Damn Thing Down, I assume. Burn the Damn Thing Down. Whoa. Interesting percussion thing happening on the right there. I don't know what that sound that is. This feels a little bit rock and roll, but it's got that very fuzzy sounding guitar. Oh, okay, surprisingly very airy sounding. On the and of the beat, the accents. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Yep. nice. More background vocals coming in there.
We keep on going. We've been trying day and night. If we make it to your time, we're gonna burn the damn thing down.
Yep. Okay, guitar solo. In the middle, maybe off to the right a little bit. Ooh, like it. I don't know what that... Is it a piano, that sort of, that attack? There's definitely sort of like a pitch in there, but it doesn't really sound like a piano, but it's got to be some sort of a thunky instrument. And there's more of it off to the right, so it's balancing out that continuous fuzz guitar on the left. That's awesome. This is an interesting song, like the dichotomy of what they're saying and everything, and it still is like a get up and go song, but they're not really get up and going with the way everything is being done. And this song is fading out in 2.5 minutes, so this is another song, worthless song. Wow, really disappointing after 5 great songs. Wow. That's too bad. Those 2 songs have just made this worse than Let's Rock. So we're not competing anymore for Best Black Keys Album. Whoa. Yes, a little bit raw sounding drums here. Definitely some roomy tone in the drums this time. This is Happiness. Big chorus here, I like that. Now this song reminds me more of the first 2 tracks where there was a little bit, I feel like a little bit more distortion on the vocals and everything that was necessary. And it's lacking a little of that higher end definition. Interesting transition there, very cool. Now this is a chorus that like a guy could sing along with, which is nice. There hasn't really been a ton of that. There have been, but everything's been a lot more laid back, I would feel. And this song even feels laid back, even though I don't feel like it's being played laid back, or the mix isn't necessarily even laid back either. There's some aspect of it that feels like it's lacking sort of energy. But I think that was done on purpose. Maybe it's the tempo. I'm not sure. Okay. Let's hope the song just doesn't fade out from here. That'd be very unfortunate. Give me a bridge and then the third chorus, and then you can end it. I'd rather you didn't fade it out, but at least finish the song first. A little guitar solo here. And that definitely sounds like it was recorded in stereo of some kind. Maybe not. Maybe it was just doubled. You know, and when artists become so famous and they've made so many albums, you can kind of... I think it's pretty common for them to start doing things sort of contrary to the way it would maybe normally be done. Like, this song feels like it could be much more of a gang vocals little bit of a faster tempo. Everyone's singing along, like sort of more of an anthem-y type of thing. And instead, they slowed it down, and it's really distorted vocals. The guitars are pulled way back. There's no high definition in them, so it doesn't feel like it's pushing that sort of anthem feel at all. So that's really interesting. And Black Keys have so many songs that are like I just described, that writing a song like this and performing it and mixing it this way, I guess I get it. Being a little contrarian to what it might be. Juxtaposing. Whoa! Whoa! Now that's an interesting sound. Baby, I'm coming home. Let's hope, baby, it doesn't fade out. Wow, okay, totally different sound. Let's see if track 9 was something different. I don't see track 9 listed as anything crazy. So, the backing vocals are really nice throughout the whole album, I will say. Wow. This sounds really nice. Now the guitars here have a lot less distortion on them. You can hear the twanginess in them again. Some of them. Yeah.
I buy the things that make you smile and send them with a kiss.
I love this. That's such a simple riff, but I love doom 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 doom. Very simple, love it. Very Black Keys. And then the accent stabs on the guitar as well. I love these hot background vocals there. That's a cool harmony part. Definitely contributes to the overall sound. Not just thickening, changing the way it sounds. It's reminding me of something I can't quite put my finger on. Some older song. Probably from the 60s or 70s that it's reminding me of. Ooh. Double tempo here. Little guitar solo. Be interesting to see if they go back to that slower tempo for the chorus the last time, or if they just noodle and then fade the song out. Hopefully they don't. Ooh. Okay, there's that mic'd with multiple. I'm sure all the guitars are probably mic'd with multiple multiple mics. Whoa. Yeah. Very cool. Very interesting. Ooh, more guitar solo. Such a huge sounding solo guitar. I feel like the compression is done really well here. They're just gonna fade the song out, aren't they? I don't want them to, but no, they're just gonna end it. No last chorus. Disappointing there too. Okay, last track. Didn't I Love You? And this song features Andy Gabbard on guitar. And he's been doing the backing vocals throughout most of the album. We're back to that just booming low frequency. Very different sounding mix than the previous song. Well, the mix doesn't sound incredibly different, but the arrangement of the song is much different. I don't know what is being used to make those massive bass sounds. If that's some sort of like a keyboard bass or some sort of like a sub bass patch on something, or if it's some sort of just a bass guitar played with all the definition pulled out. It's so nice and round. not saying much. Sorry, I'm just thinking. Nice subtle background vocals there. Yeah. Now this song sounds like it's mixed almost a little bit like Delta Cream, but it's lacking that like rawness that Delta Cream had. There's a raw feeling here as well. However, Delta Cream was like drums, bass, guitar, or I think there was a bass on it. Whatever. That felt very live because I believe that's how everything was tracked. Sorry, I'm having sort of my overall thoughts for the album. I'm arranging them in my head. Dan pretty much singing along with the guitar here. What the guitar is playing is the melody he's singing, which is interesting. And that's actually a sign of less younger guitar players do that a lot because it's easier for them to sing while what they're playing on the guitar. Obviously, we know that Dan and anyone that would be working on a Black Keys album is not inexperienced enough to make that. So, for that to be the reason for this, clearly it's a choice. It's cool. I'm not saying it's a bad or good thing at all. I'm just saying the melody that he's been singing thus far is the same melody that's been playing on the guitar, which is, I think, maybe one of the reasons it was reminding me of Delta Cream a little bit. Ooh. Ooh, there you can hear the bass. Pretty sure that's a bass guitar. Unless it's a guitar with a bass pedal or something on it. Okay, that song ended interestingly. Okay, wow. All right. Just as quickly as it came, it sped off into the night. There goes the Black Keys album, Dropout Boogie. Okay, well... okay, so overall thoughts here. First thing I have to say right away, track 6, track 7 faded out, and they were bad fade outs. It wasn't just, let's write a song, finish it, and then repeat the song, and then just fade it out. It was, let's get to this sort of the second chorus, and we'll start to play a bit of a bridge, and then just song just fades out. Just lazy and terrible. I hate it. There's no good excuse to ever fade a song out, ever. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, it sounds like the song is fading off into the distance and existing forever. That's crap. That's bull crap. It's stupid. I don't like it. It's just lazy songwriting to me. Now, obviously, these songs were done the way that they were. We know that the Black Keys can write the ending to a song, obviously. So it was chosen to be this way for a reason. They did it on purpose, and it is the way it is. And so I'm just saying that, in my opinion, those two songs are the weakest on the album because they do fade out. And I personally hate it when a song fades out enough to say that that really brings the album down from up here down to here for me. No, so not like, if it was a 10, those two songs would bring it down to like an 8 or so. So I'm not saying that it goes from like a 10 to a 6, more to an 8. And I'm not saying it was a 10. I'm just, giving you my example. Though on my channel, the joke is always, however many songs, if an album does have fade outs, however many songs there are on the album, however many songs fade out, you minus that. So this is a 10-song album, so the album would get an 8 out of 10 score on the fade out level. And technically there was another song that did fade out. However, I'm totally going to be forgiving of that one because it felt more like a loop, and I'm forgiving of a loop fading out if the song's already been finished and everything has concluded, and then the loop just sort of continues and then does fade out, rather than having a song feel incomplete and then just kind of ing the song out. Like the example I always give is America's album. their self-titled album, I think it is, with Enter Sandman and Horse with No Name. Go listen to that album. I think there's 13 songs on it, and 11 of the 13 songs fade out, and they are all egregious. Let's just start the last chorus and then just fade it out. Just terrible. Just awful. Awful, awful, awful. So that's all I'll say about the fade outs. Just know that it's disappointing to me. It lowers my overall enjoyment of the album, but let's move on from that. I think the production overall was interesting. There was more distortion than I expected there to be, but it wasn't the kind of distortion that I thought. Let's Rock was a very straightforward, almost more of a poppy sounding album. And I think one of the reasons for that is because they were sort of channeling. And I remember reading interviews at the time with the Black Keys that they went into the studio. I read that whenever the Black Keys make an album, they always go into the studio really not preparing or planning very much. They both just go into the studio and then they start playing together, and what comes out is what comes out. And for Let's Rock, they had been listening to that sort of more close mic'd drum kit sounding, very clean, clear production sounding stuff from the mid to late 70s. And I really feel like you can hear that and you can feel that influence all over Let's Rock. And I think that's one of the reasons that I enjoy Let's Rock so much. I think the production is a really cool combination of their grittier, dirtier production style from an album like Brothers, mixed with the crisper, more clear production style that, of course, they can do. They just choose not to because they want to have that dirty, gritty bluesiness to their music. So I think that's why Let's Rock is such a cool mixture of those two things. The songs, I feel like, on Dropout Boogie, overall, now that the album's done, I'm left feeling like the album was a little bit slower and more plodding than I anticipated it being. Especially knowing that Delta Cream came out around the same time as they were working on this, because Delta Cream, to me, was just a song where we have a minute of guitar playing and then maybe 20 to 30 seconds of vocals, and then another minute of guitar playing, and then another 20 to 30 seconds of vocals, and then another minute of guitar playing, followed by a minute of guitar playing outro, and then that 4-minute song is over. Or I guess 4.5, 5 minute song if I'm calculating my time. But you know what I mean. Tiny little bit of vocals, lots of guitar playing, tiny little bit of vocals, lots of guitar playing, song is over. And so, they did that for a reason. That's what they were trying to do. And so I was kind of anticipating with this album, maybe having gotten that sort of bluesiness out of their system, that they would go back to the sort of Let's Rock more poppiness feel that they had. And I feel like in some ways they did. The songs were very straightforward. They were very simple, lots of repeating parts, which they did on Delta Cream as well. But I think that was much more of a live feeling, like one guy is doing the repeating part while the other guy is sort of soloing and figuring his way around the guitar neck to play something that might sound a lot more complicated to an uneducated blues listener like me. Hold on, the phone is ringing. Gotta get it. So yeah, like I was saying, the guitar playing and everything on Delta Cream was intentionally live feeling. I believe it was recorded live. And there was a lot of looseness and human aspect to it because of all of that. Whereas Let's Rock was a lot more tighter put together, and the production was such that things were clearer and they were a little bit more high fidelity sounding. So then we come to Dropout Boogie, which is really interesting. I mentioned that there was more distortion than I anticipated, but it wasn't distortion like I was thinking it would be. There was a lot of guitar distortion, but that all sounded natural. What sounded different to me was the distortion in the vocals. Several of the songs had very, very distorted vocals, and it definitely gave those songs a very particular sound. I think that overall the album was mastered in such a way, and I think this is mastering, it was mastered in such a way that a lot of the high crispy frequencies were gone, and you're left with that sort of I think it was done well enough that I wouldn't use the word muddy to describe this, because to me muddy is sort of more of a negative term when you're referring to a mix. If a mix were muddy, it would be the mid and low frequencies are sort of mushing all together, and it's hard to sort of differentiate one sound from another, and it creates what I always call that mid-range soup that sort of floats around in the back, when then you have all the vocals, the cymbals, maybe some of the guitars or keyboards or sparkly things that the Black Keys doesn't use that often, sitting on top of that mid and low soup, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of an abstract thing to say, but I do think that the low boomy woofy mid-range and low range on this album was handled well. It was handled correctly. There was a lot of it, and I feel like it overpowered any of the sort of higher frequency things, especially since the album was mastered and mixed to intentionally have that lack of high end. And this always is something that comes up when you're trying to make your album sound vintage, trying to make your album sound analog and old. And now a lot of this stuff was probably recorded, if not all of it, was recorded using old analog gear and run through tape machines and tape recorders and things like that to achieve this sound. So they're doing it the way that they, the way that it makes sense to do things like this if you're going for that particular sound. But I feel like sometimes you can take something like this to the extreme. One of my favorite examples of this, there's a really cool band called The Constellations, and they have sort of like a bluesy hip hop type of thing, and they released their first album, which sounds fantastic. And then their second album, which I think is called The Old Speakeasy, or maybe that's just a song on their album. I can't remember what the album is called, but when I got the album, I actually thought that there was something wrong, like that the wrong mix had been sent to the duplication plant, because it just sounds awful. And I actually made a channel here on my YouTube. I actually made a video here on my YouTube channel showing the differences in the mix from their first album to their second album, and it sounds horrendous. Their second album sounds so bad.
I've got scars up and down from my head to my toes. I've lived a long, hard life. Some say that it shows. Every single love is a murder. You gotta commit to survive. That cop so bad, my reflection in the glasses. I'm smirking as it passes. Big mistakes about the grass I proceed to serve. I makes my money on this curve. Got a bundle of what I got wrong turn. I'm feeling kinda sleepy, baby. Death is gonna meet me. That the bad cat crossing my path. Doctor, police violence September. October gets a little colder. Oh, my great escapes. This is what I'm captured for.
Anyway, we're getting in the weeds with that. My point I was trying to make was, you can take the vintage lo-fi sound, the intentional vintagey lo-fi sound, a little bit too far sometimes, and I feel like this album walked that line and maybe possibly stepped over it a little bit too much. There was a little bit too much distortion and a definite lack of higher frequencies. Like, there was almost no frequencies, I would say, on the whole album above 7K hertz at all. It would be interesting to look at this album on a stereo or on a frequency spectrum to see, like, I'm sure there's just like a total cutoff after a certain number that would probably be very surprising if you looked at how it would be really interesting to compare the frequency and to frequency analyze the songs from Let's Rock with the song from Dropout Boogie. However, again, all of that was done intentionally, and I think that they just maybe pushed it a little bit too far. As you would expect with the Black Keys, to me, I think no matter what you're talking about when you're talking about no matter what, the Black Keys have to have fantastic sounding drums, and this album was no exception. This album is phenomenal. This album is fantastic when it comes to the drums. There was a lack of high frequencies, so sometimes it was even hard to sort of tell what cymbals Pat was playing, but it all worked in context with the rest of the mix. There was a lot of, riding on the ride cymbal, and then the crashes would crash every now and then. You'd get that feeling, but I really don't remember hearing a hi-hat the whole time. I'm sure he played it a lot, but the aux percussion stood out to me more than the cymbal playing. The kick and snare were fantastic. They're phenomenal the entire time. They're very different from song to song. I think a lot of that probably has to do with drum, not necessarily drum replacement, but just like adding certain sounds and frequencies to the drums to make them sound this particular way that they do. I don't have any feeling towards that. I don't think that that's cheating or anything like that. I know some people would maybe think that, but I'm sure that the Black Keys use all sorts of modern recording and mixing techniques to make their stuff sound as good as possible. And they do it better than pretty much almost anybody in the industry when you're talking about their specific sound. So I don't begrudge them using any sort of technique or anything like that, but I think the drums sound fantastic. The aux percussion, like I said, I wasn't necessarily paying attention to it in every song, but when I was paying attention to it, I noticed all sorts of things. I noticed tambourines. I pointed out several times I heard one of the congos or sort of bongo-y type of sounds. There were a couple songs where I heard maybe like castanets a little bit, or maybe some like, I can't think of what they're called, but it's like a very high-pitched sort of sounding woodblock or wood sticks that you hit together. I think it's more of sort of like they thought of as like sort of like a Spanish or Latin instrument, but it's just a single sound, just like a very kind of like type of thing, kind of like a wood block, but they have a name and I can't think of what it is, but maybe clave, maybe. But anyway, I'm sorry, I don't know the specific term for that, but I heard stuff like that, mixed in throughout. So the aux percussion I thought was really nice. The background vocals throughout the whole album were fantastic. And I think you could tell that they weren't all just Dan. I do think I heard Dan doing his own background vocals and harmony vocals and stuff every now and then. But for the most part, I think that they were all this additional person, this Andy Gabbard guy. And kudos to that guy, because I really feel like he made the songs feel different. It makes it feel like there's more people in the band. And that doesn't necessarily have to be something that you want with the Black Keys, because just Dan and Pat can make a fantastic album, just the two of them. But it definitely feels like more of a group rocking together, jamming together when you have that extra background vocalist. When I think of, for example, like Modest Mouse, the songs where Jason Isaacs is not doing the background vocals, but the additional member of that band that does background vocals, and I'm sorry, I don't know which one, like those songs really stand out to me. And in this case, I really feel like the addition of having that Andy guy do some additional background vocals and overdub vocals and harmony vocals was a fantastic decision. And I hope that they stick with that moving forward. Not necessarily this guy, though I think he did a good enough job to continue with it, but I really enjoyed that decision. I think that makes this album stand out a little bit better. And Black Keys have always used other background singers and backup vocalists on their albums, but I think it really stood out to me on this album. So kudos to that guy for sure. The bass, when it was there, when I noticed it, was very booming and huge, like I said, kind of like the kick sound, which the Black Keys have always used that sort of like on the one of every measure, they have that really deep subsonic frequency kick. And then maybe the rest of the measure, whenever Pat's playing the kick, it's still a big booming low frequency kick, but it's not as crazy as that downbeat of the one of every measure. So like that's what makes me think that they're using some samples and things that they're throwing in there on top of the drums, which again, I think is totally fine. But you can kind of tell that stuff like that's happening in the drums, and the toms really stuck out to me in the first song. After that, I didn't really pay attention to him that much. When you like a band like the Black Keys, it's kind of hard, if you're listening to a band where every song is sonically like something completely different. Like the last album that I did a reaction to, I haven't posted on my channel yet as of recording this, was The New Shining, which are a really cool band from the Netherlands, and they have lots of keyboards and things in their music. So just inherently using more keyboards, every song can sound sonically completely different from the last. Whereas with the Black Keys, you're getting a band that is a band. They're trying to have a uniform sounding album. And so it's a little bit harder to comment like I do when I'm doing my reactions here on the different things I'm hearing, because for the most part, the drums and the guitar kind of sound the same from song to song. And I'm not a good enough guitar player or drummer to comment on like the technique or anything being used or being switched from song to song. I think, I tried to focus on and comment on as much of the guitar stuff as I could. Definitely there were a lot of times where you could tell the guitars were recorded with multiple microphones on the same source, probably a guitar amp sitting in a room somewhere. And then when solos or things would happen, it didn't just feel like a guitar that was recorded mono and then panned in the stereo image where they wanted it to go. It felt like a giant sound, but its origin source was sort of just skewed off. They moved the image that you were seeing off a little bit, but it still felt like a big full stereo spectrum sound, and I really appreciate that. That's not something that a lot of bands do. It's so easy to just put one microphone on something and, record everything and then pan it, add your delay, add your reverb, do whatever you want with it to give it that space, sort of create an artificial space, if you will, for it. It's very easy to do stuff like that, and it's harder to do something with multiple mics. One of the first things I learned when I started, school for audio engineering was one of the very first things you learn is, for microphones, don't use two if one will do. That's always one of that's one of the core foundations of audio recording. Don't use two if one will do. Now, if you're the Black Keys and, the drum sound on your album is one of the most important aspects of it, you're going to probably throw microphones on everything. And then you just have to have someone that's good at mixing, that's good at engineering, to come in and tell you what you should and shouldn't use. Now, Patrick and Dan know their stuff enough that they probably don't actually throw microphones everywhere needlessly in the room. They know how to get the sounds that they want, and then they know how to take the sounds that they get and mix them to their fullest potential, so they don't necessarily have to have a microphone on everything. I'm sure they did have probably at least one microphone on every drum of the kit, but they would be smart enough to know how to do all that stuff, as evidenced by the quality of all of their music. So Dan's vocals sound great. Dan's guitars sound great. The guitars tones really were interesting throughout the album. Lots of layering of guitars. If you go back further in their catalog, there would be significantly less layering on all of their songs, and it would be much more of a simplified. The song arrangement might not necessarily be simple, but you're hearing the drums, you're hearing the guitar, and then maybe one or two guitar overdubs or a bass or something like that. Whereas here you're hearing drums, you're hearing auxiliary percussion, you're hearing bass, you're hearing guitar in the middle, guitar on the left, guitar on the right, additional guitar in the middle, doing like just stabs or something. I didn't hear a single acoustic guitar on the album, I don't think, which is okay. I don't really think of Black Keys and acoustic guitars, but I do, like I said at the beginning, a Little Black Submarines is an interesting and different song in their catalog that I think does stick out because of what that song all entails. It feels sort of like a prog rock song, a lot longer, and there's different elements to it than there would be in most of the Black Keys songs. So I think that having nothing like that on this album means that they were going for a more tighter, uniform sound throughout rather than experimenting very much, and that probably has to do with just the time that they had to record, the fact that the way they do record, just like I said, getting in the studio and jamming and creating songs organically. They probably just have fun when they're, jamming and come up with a cool riff, whatever, have some fun with it for a while, write the song, boom, done, go record it, work on it, maybe rehearse it a few times, record it, and be done. I don't necessarily know if the environment would be conducive to, let's work out this crazy intricate part over here just on the left side, and then to stop and take a break for a couple days to figure out some crazy part to do on the right. And then what are the drums going to do the whole time? Let's figure out some complex thing. That doesn't seem like their style. They definitely seem like more of a let's get in the studio, jam together, and let's make some good modern day rock songs, blues rock songs. And that's, at the end of the day, what Dropout Boogie is. So overall impressions, I think the album production impressed me. I'm disappointed in the lack of high end. However, I've been saying that a lot recently with certain albums, and with albums the last 2 years or so. There are just certain albums and bands that are trying to be like, we want everything to sound like it's playing on a vinyl record player out of an old big cabinet speakers where there's no high frequencies whatsoever. The bass knobs turned all the way off, the treble knobs turned all the way down. That's what we want this album to sound like everywhere for everyone. I wonder what this album would sound like coming out of cell phone speakers or something like that. I mean, it would be terrible because everything coming out of a cell phone speaker sounds terrible, or with like tiny little earbuds that don't have good bass response. What would this album sound like? Would it sound thin? Or would I be hearing things that I couldn't hear because of the low booming bass that was sort of kind of taking over things? So the mix overall, I would say, if I don't normally do number stuff, but if 10 out of 10 is like the best mix possible, this was probably, maybe I would say at like a 7, whereas I would expect a Black Keys to be at like an 8 or a 9 for sure. So that's a tiny bit disappointing to me, but I think still good. There were many songs on the album where I didn't even think of the production at all because everything was there were a little bit more clarity to things. And we'll see. If I listen to this album in my car, it might sound vastly different than listening on my headphones here. So we'll just see what happens there. I think songwriting-wise, I'm disappointed that some of the songs felt short. Even some of the songs that did kind of complete themselves, and I was left feeling like they were finished. I feel like they could have gone a little bit longer, but based on everything I was just saying about jamming and everything, I can understand why the songs are a little bit shorter. The 2 songs in the middle that fade out are Unforgivable and Terrible, and I probably will not listen to those songs very often ever. If I can just go ahead and skip those tracks, I will. And I think that the... overall, I'm disappointed with the fact that people are ending songs earlier nowadays. And I don't know if it has anything to do with TikTok specifically, but I just feel like it's sort of like the modern thing with music to do. Like, let's make a really short song. We only need to do the chorus twice. Why do the chorus a third time? So that's a frustration that comes from me personally as a very subjective thing. So anyway, thank you very much for listening with me. Hopefully I was able to include the audio in the video. If not, if you just skip to the end to hear my thoughts or whatever, go listen to this album. If you haven't heard it, weren't able to listen to it with me, go listen to it. You'll be surprised. You'll probably like it a lot more than I did. You'll probably hear things in a completely different way than I did, but that is the beauty of music, and that is the beauty of sharing our opinions about music and whatnot. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time when I will be doing either the new archive album that I have, which I just got and filmed the unboxing of today, the autographed copy of Call to Arms and Angels, or up here I have, finally, after ordering the album back in February, it's May, halfway through May now, I finally have my Bloodywood album, so I'm going to be doing the reaction to that as well. So, lots of really good things to look forward to. Until then, go out, listen to some good music, and I will see you next time.